I'm Katie Couric. An historic alliance between Democrats and the NRA produces the first major new gun control bill in years. Tonight, they're closing the loophole that allowed the Virginia Tech killer to buy his guns. Also tonight, an attack on this mosque in Iraq unleashed a year of massacres. Today, it was hit again. A CBS News exclusive. For the first time, the director of the FBI details the nuclear threat that America faces today. And ovarian cancer, new life-saving guidelines every woman should know.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Hello, everyone. Congress is trying to prevent another Virginia Tech. The House voted today to close the loophole that allowed Sung-Wee Cho to buy the guns he used in the April massacre, despite his history of mental illness. It's the first major new gun control legislation in more than a decade, and it has the backing of the NRA. House passage came on the day a federal report was released on the Virginia Tech shootings. Among the key findings, information states have about people prohibited from buying guns is not making it into the National Registry. That's exactly what this new law addresses. So we'll begin on Capitol Hill with Cheryl Atkinson.
At a time when Congress is fighting over everything else, today they agreed on one of the most controversial topics known to politics, gun control. And they did it with help from a curious alliance of Democrats and the National Rifle Association.
When the NRA and I agree on legislation, you know that it's going to get through, become law, and do some good.
The bill passed by the House today requires states to send information on criminals and those judged mentally ill to the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System so they can't buy guns. Fewer than half the states are doing that now. The bill also helps states pay the costs of record sharing, a total of $750 million. The NRA helped write the details.
Is it strange for your group to be working so closely with Democrats on a gun law?
You know, we'll work with anyone if you protect the rights of law-abiding people under the Second Amendment and you target people that shouldn't have guns.
People like Sung-Wee Cho, the Virginia Tech gunman. Advocates say that massacre should have been averted because Cho had been ordered to get mental health treatment, but the state never sent that information to the national system. Outrage over the Virginia Tech shootings translated into support for the bill, which Representative Carolyn McCarthy has pushed for years. Her husband was killed and her son injured in a mass shooting on a New York commuter train in 1993.
The bill will take millions and millions of names that are sitting in boxes in courtrooms across this country and get them into the system.
If the Senate passes the bill as expected, information could flood into the FBI's computers, which now only have a tenth of the estimated 2.7 million names of mentally ill people who should be barred from owning guns. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Paul Helmke is president of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. He's in our Washington bureau tonight. Mr. Helmke, we just heard Cheryl Atkinson talk about the fact that there are 2.5 million mentally ill people who should be prevented from buying guns in this country. Will this new law do that?
This law will definitely help. Brady background checks do work. It stopped over 1.3 million people that are prohibited purchasers from buying guns in the past. To have more complete records is going to make all of us safer.
What about gun shows, though? Won't they still be permitted to buy them there?
There's still a lot more that needs to be done, and I hope that Wayne LaPierre and the NRA will follow through on the statements they've made today, and let's strengthen those background checks. Background checks work, and if we can get them applicable to all sales of guns, then we can make all of our communities safer.
A lot of people might be surprised that the NRA supported this legislation. We heard Wayne LaPierre explain why, but what motivated them in this case?
I think it's a situation where post-Virginia Tech, they realized that the American people want to do something about the easy availability of guns to dangerous people. It's too easy in this country for dangerous people to get guns. We have very weak gun laws. We need to strengthen these things.
Paul Helmke. Mr. Helmke, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, overseas tonight, Iraq's government and the U.S. military are desperately trying to keep a lid on the violence after a sacred Shiite mosque in Samarra, northwest of Baghdad, was bombed today for the second time in just over a year. Al-Qaeda is suspected in both attacks. The mosque was known for its golden dome, which was demolished early last year, setting off a wave of massacres throughout Iraq. Today's bombing toppled 2 minarets. We have 2 reports tonight, beginning with Lara Logan in Baghdad.
A second attack on one of Shiite Islam's holiest shrines is just what many here have feared. This small pile of rubble is all that remains of one of the towering minarets that stretched 118 feet into the sky. The 2 towers were completely destroyed by near-simultaneous explosions in broad daylight. The first time the famous Golden Dome Mosque was bombed by al-Qaeda last February, Shiites poured onto the streets in angry protest. And the most powerful Shiite militia leader, Muqtada al-Sadr, publicly appealed for calm, just as he did today after the latest attack. But last time, behind closed doors, a call went out that unleashed a frenzy of revenge killing and trapped Iraq in a cycle of bloodletting that continues today. That's why Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki responded to this attack by immediately imposing a citywide curfew in Baghdad. Maliki, who visited the scene, warned of more attacks against other mosques and promised additional security. But within hours, 3 Sunni mosques south of Baghdad went up in flames, and attackers set fire to 3 more mosques in the capital.
We join with Prime Minister Maliki in urging all Iraqis to remain calm and to allow appropriate responses to come from the legitimate security forces of Iraq.
Those security forces failed spectacularly this morning. 2 units of Iraqi police and government security guards protect the mosque, and CBS News has learned 15 of them have since been detained by the Iraqi government. This bombing comes only a day before all U.S. combat forces for the troop surge are supposed to finally be in position. Al-Qaeda showing it can still seize the initiative and undermine U.S. promises to provide security here. Lara Logan, CBS News, Baghdad.
This is David Martin. A Pentagon report completed just before this latest terrorist spectacular cites the rise of high-profile attacks as one of the negative trends since the American troop surge began. The overall level of violence in Iraq remains unchanged, running at more than 1,000 attacks a week. No wonder the White House is warning not to expect the surge to produce dramatic results by September.
It is naive to think suddenly, boom, you snap a finger and you've got an instant change in the situation.
The report does cite positive trends like a decrease in sectarian killings. And U.S. military officers say there's been a decrease in the horrific market bombings in Baghdad due to the barriers and checkpoints erected around the capital. In response, the terrorists seem to have shifted to bridges, 16 attacks since February. They don't cause as many casualties, but they send the same message. The government cannot protect you.
If market bombings are down, but bridge bombings up, is that progress or just evidence the enemy can adapt to whatever the U.S. military throws at it?
We're now dealing with people who've learned through survival over multiple years of warfare how to fight the Americans effectively and are training others in what they've learned.
For instance, attacks using enhanced explosive devices smuggled in from Iran, an all-time high in April. It may be too soon to know if the surge is working, but it is changing the nature of the fighting, if not the outcome. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
And now to another global hotspot witnessing a new explosion of violence. A car bomb went off today along the beachfront in Beirut. 10 people were killed, including a lawmaker who was an outspoken opponent of Syrian influence in Lebanon. In Gaza, meanwhile, efforts to broker a truce between rival Palestinian factions broke down tonight. The 2 sides, which share control of the Palestinian government, continue to battle in the streets. But Fatah is taking a pounding from Hamas, the group that's linked to Syria and Iran. Richard Roth has the latest.
They shouted, "Stop the killing," and even laid down in protest in Gaza City. But this peace rally didn't have a chance. These were ordinary people fed up with violence, facing gunmen who simply shot at them. Hamas militants captured the largest town in southern Gaza, bombing a Palestinian government building and chasing down rival Fatah gunmen. A mosque was no sanctuary, not even for frightened schoolboys. And after 3 days, Hamas now controls most of the Gaza Strip and all its borders. Few outsiders are venturing in, the danger is so great. This CBS News cameraman was caught in the crossfire at a TV station, trapped, then taken captive by Hamas gunmen who later turned him loose. Enemies in the brutal factional fighting have been shot in hospital beds and thrown from high-rise rooftops onto Gaza's streets, where only 4 months ago Palestinian-American Maha Barakat could walk her children safely home from school. Now the whole family's trapped at home.
I'm hearing raining missiles and bullets. They're everywhere. They're shooting. In America, you wouldn't hear anything like this.
But Maha says it's not civil war.
It is a distinctly Fatah-Hamas clash that's going on. It's Fatah and Hamas. The citizens are staying out of this. It's not like all citizens are fighting. It's basically a fight for power.
But the fear is it's a fight just begging to get bigger. The threat from militants on both sides is to spread the violence to the Palestinian West Bank.
It's already spilled over here, with Hamas and Fatah exchanging bullets and blame in the town of Nablus. Political leaders of both groups now say it has to stop. If they mean it, they just have to convince the gunmen. Richard Roth, CBS News in the West Bank.
There is much more CBS News ahead. Coming up next, an exclusive report on the FBI's plan for dealing with a potential nuclear attack. And later, heeding the early warning signs of ovarian cancer. It could save your life. Delegates from dozens of countries around the world are meeting in Miami this week with one goal in mind: stopping the next terror attack before it happens. The focus: nuclear weapons. Today, the director of the FBI revealed for the first time the extent of the nuclear threat. Bob Orr has this CBS News exclusive.
In New York, cops armed with Geiger counters pull over trucks for random inspections. Robotic underwater cameras crawl along the hulls of cruise ships, looking for explosives and traces of radioactivity. And from the air, sensors snoop for radiation hotspots. It is the last line of defense against an unthinkable threat.
Terrorists, Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, have sought nuclear materials for a number of years now.
FBI Director Robert Mueller says terrorists would like nothing better than to hit the U.S. with a nuclear weapon.
When we saw 9/11, everyone, I think, pretty much looking at those pictures thought this is about as bad as it can get.
It's not as bad as it can get. With a nuclear device, if a nuclear device went off, you're talking about devastation that is far, far beyond what we saw on September 11th.
That kind of devastation was graphically portrayed in the film The Sum of All Fears, when a nuclear bomb leveled much of Baltimore.
That was just a movie, but officials warn the threat is real and the bomb wouldn't have to be that big. A small nuclear device in the back of a van here in the heart of Washington would take out the White House and everything else within a square mile.
Today in Miami, the FBI and security officials from 28 countries took part in a drill aimed at working together to detect and disrupt terror cells seeking nuclear materials. Officials say it would not be easy for terrorists to get a nuke or the material to make one, but thousands of Cold War weapons remain in Russian stockpiles, and emerging nuclear powers such as Pakistan, Iran, and North Korea could make nuclear fuel more readily available to terrorists. There have already been 18 known cases of illegal trafficking of weapons-grade uranium. This Russian man was busted for trying to sell bomb material to an Islamic terrorist. Keeping nukes away from terrorists is the goal, because nobody wants to deal with an explosion after the fact.
God forbid something like this happens, we have to be as prepared as we possibly can be and do everything we can to deter and detect.
To date, Al-Qaeda has not been able to obtain nukes, but Mueller says they're still desperate to get one.
To people who might think you're hyping the threat for whatever reason, what would you say?
It's not hype. It is something that would be horrifying if it fell into the hands of terrorists, or terrorists were able to manufacture such a device, and we cannot let that happen. We just cannot let that happen.
An unthinkable threat, but not an impossible one. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
Up in space today, an extraordinary view of the intricate work being done by the crew of the shuttle Atlantis dock now to the space station. Astronauts Patrick Forrester and Steve Swanson ventured outside to help fold up a solar wing that needs to be tucked away so a new one can be deployed. They got about half the job done. NASA hopes to finish it on Friday. Back on Mother Earth, a heads up for mom and dad. The Consumer Product Safety Commission today announced a recall of Thomas the Tank Engine toys, wooden trains, buildings, and signs. 1.5 million pieces in all sold from January 2005 until this month. The toys contain lead paint, which can cause brain damage. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, tracking an elusive killer. New help for women to spot the early warning signs of ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer has been called the silent killer because it's difficult to detect, often until it's too late. More than 22,000 American women will be diagnosed with it this year, and more than 15,000 are expected to die from it. Most women die within 5 years of diagnosis because by the time doctors find the disease, it's already spread. Now, 3 leading cancer research groups have put together a list of symptoms that could lead to earlier detection. 49-year-old Janet Weinrib was diagnosed with ovarian cancer 2 years ago.
Something was sticking out of my stomach. I mean, there was a pronounced bulge in my lower abdomen.
But in retrospect, there were signs of her cancer almost 2 months earlier.
The feeling of being, I would say, bloated would be the best description.
According to new guidelines issued today, that's just one of 4 common symptoms indicating early ovarian cancer. In addition to bloating, other symptoms include feeling full quickly, abdominal pain, and frequent or urgent urination.
We don't want to frighten people into having everyone think that, oh my gosh, I've got ovarian cancer because I have bloating. Most people will not, but symptoms that are concerning are symptoms that are new for a patient, that persist for more than several weeks, and that occur almost daily.
Ovarian cancer, if detected early, is 90% curable, but it's often misdiagnosed, and only 19% of cases are discovered in the earliest stage.
We know that ovarian cancer in many cases can grow very rapidly, so time is of the essence.
A PSA test for prostate cancer, mammograms for breast cancer, colonoscopies for colon cancer. Why isn't there some kind of early diagnostic test for ovarian cancer?
The reason is partially because the ovaries are deep inside the body. So we're really relying on, I think, 2 modalities. One are imaging studies like x-rays and new types of x-rays. And then the other are blood tests to look for different substances that ovarian cancer may be shedding into the blood.
In the meantime, Dr. Brown says women must listen carefully to their bodies, and doctors must listen carefully to their patients.
Part of the importance of this study is to let doctors know, too, that these symptoms exist, and so that it can really trigger in their minds when they're seeing women like this to think about this as a possibility.
In other medical news, a panel of federal health advisors today rejected that widely anticipated new weight loss drug we told you about last night. The panel says the maker of Rimonabant failed to demonstrate that it is safe. The drug is sold widely in other countries, but it's also been linked to depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. And that's the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.